Tracy Palandjian. I'm the co-founder and CEO of Social Finance, a nonprofit dedicated to mobilizing investment capital for social change. We are a 501c3 trying to bring impact investing products to the United States to help address the plight of underserved individuals and communities. Sister organization in the UK, Social Finance, launched the world's first social impact bond. Essentially, a social impact bond is about raising private investment capital to fund proven interventions, typically delivered by nonprofits, typically targeted at prevention, whereby as a result of these programs, social outcomes are generated, as well as government savings are generated, and then the government repays our investors a principal plus a rate of return. But essentially, the instrument brings together three unusual parties: the government, the private investors, and nonprofit service providers in an arrangement that can drive and deliver social value and financial returns. The social impact bond is very much about investing in prevention. Invest $1 of prevention today so that you can save many more dollars in remediation expenses avoided tomorrow. Several things come to mind. One is the economics need to be there, that the cost of the intervention has to be smaller than the ultimate savings achieved by government, because you need a financial engine to return payment. Second of all, you need to have proven interventions and proven nonprofits who are delivering this intervention in place, because you need someone to deploy those investment dollars. And then finally, all the issues around measurability. You know, can you target and articulate the population? Can you track this population over time? Are the data systems available to track these populations? And most importantly, can you establish, you know, a set of quote-unquote counterfactuals to attribute success to this program? Because now you're using taxpayer dollars to refund investors, so you need to make sure that the program's effectiveness is there as not just due to noise in the market. So if you can, you know, satisfy all these conditions, and obviously the most important condition is, you know, doing no harm, and that's our maxim. And as you can imagine, introducing profit into the social arena, addressing social problems, can, you know, if not managed properly, create unintended consequences, perverse incentives, and we're very vigilant about mitigating those risks. So if you think about all the different criteria, only several areas jump out at you. So we're looking a lot at criminal justice applications, both on the adult side as well as the juvenile side. Where can you find re-entry services that are proven, delivered by great nonprofits to save expenditures in the criminal justice systems and, you know, avoided victimization expenses. We're also looking at applications around homelessness. The homeless person basically uses the emergency room and the hospital as their site for getting their primary care. And we have wonderful proven interventions around housing attached to a high degree of support services. So addressing the cost of homelessness, mostly in the Medicaid arena, is also a very promising area. We're also looking at some really interesting health applications, management of chronic illnesses like asthma, like diabetes. Again, places where if you can manage the conditions or prevent these conditions in the first place, it saves the government and pain and suffering of the individual over a long period of time. Another one that might be interesting to talk about is kind of the aging demographic of this country. You know, increasingly, you know, you're seeing the quote-unquote graying of America, and you know, putting everyone in expensive long-term nursing facilities are simply not sustainable financially, and it's also not great for the individual. So, you know, can we invest in programs that allows the individual to age in place, age in their communities more, you know, gracefully, as well as deliver a lot of savings, is yet another area. It's my opinion that the hype is very much ahead of reality, and we need to have great transactions on the ground to prove the concept. the recidivism rate as a nation, depending on how you count it, whether it's rearrest, re-adjudication, reincarceration, and also the time period, is anywhere between 50 to 60%. And among some of the high-risk offenders, which is a population that we're looking at in New York State right now with the Cuomo administration, that number goes up to the 70th and 80th percentile. And it is just simply unsustainable. And if you look at our country as a whole, we spend over $70 billion at the federal, state, and local levels on incarceration. And there are over 5 million people in any kind of U.S. correctional facilities in any given point in time. And that number is up from a $10 billion spend in 1980. So if you think about that rate of growth, it is insane. And that 5 million population that I just mentioned, that represents 1/4 of the global inmate population. Certainly nothing to be proud of, and a lot of those people, do belong in the facilities, yet a lot of them actually don't belong. How can we provide those who don't belong with the service and programs that they can actually, lift themselves up and be on their feet again? Programs that really address the root causes of recidivism, like, access to housing, family reunification, providing, substance abuse assistance, mental health assistance, job training for those who can, do that. Begin to, really address the root causes of recidivism through a wraparound approach. I think, that in itself is a huge opportunity. So the first social impact bond in the world in the UK, launched by our sister organization, was targeted at this population and targeted at this problem. And it's also the transaction that we're launching in New York State as well. A small instrument, it was a £5 million raise, so around $8 million. We treat every single person that walks out of one prison in Peterborough, England. Yet that program is voluntary, so unless we do kind of in-prison outreach and have someone standing at the gates to meet this person, there could potentially be a lot of leakage. If we don't have access to the individual, we actually have no chance of affecting their behavior and their recidivism rate. The program now is 2 years old, is an 8-year instrument, and if we hit the metrics of achieving a recidivism reduction rate vis-a-vis a robust methodology against a control group, the government repays our investors, this is the UK government, repays our investors anywhere between a 2.5% to 13% rate of return. We're very confident. The interim metrics that are coming through are extremely encouraging. And the hurdle rates that we've established with government is very reasonable compared to the track record that these nonprofits have been able to achieve in the past. So we're very encouraged. We have great support in the UK as well as in the US for this kind of work, and we're very encouraged. Yet it's really too early to say that there's been a proof of concept, but clearly there's never been a more timely moment to think about new ways to address our social problems. And in the last 7 years of my previous capacity as a strategy consultant, I ran a not-for-profit practice at the Parthenon Group, where we helped NGOs and foundations around the world to better accomplish their missions. So Social Finance US was founded in January of 2011 with that mission in mind, to connect the social sector with the mainstream capital markets and creating a pathway and revenue models to solve social problems by leveraging pools of capital outside of philanthropy. We are a 501c3, so while we raise investment dollars to fund our projects, and these are, pretty robust investment propositions that we feel can stand the scrutiny of investors, more difficult for a small nonprofit is raising philanthropic capital to keep the lights on, to pay our rent, to, hire our team, to develop these instruments and to push the thinking and to build the field. So we welcome more people to join the cause, to be our ambassadors, to contribute, be a voice in this journey, as well as people who are looking to put their resources to work in a different way, to do good and do well at the same time. And I think that, I kind of sit in my early 40s, sit at the intersection of two generations. A generation when I went to business school in the 90s, where financial gain was really the driving force behind the DNA of a lot of my fellow classmates. And if you think about the leading industries that those folks went into, and I'm one of them, so and now, it's, at Harvard Business School is one of the most thriving and most popular departments, versus the generation of students that we're recruiting for our teams today, people who are graduating from law school and business school in their, mid to late 20s. Purpose is front and center, and I feel like it's this kind of transformational sea change shift that's palpable, which gives me a lot of hope to the kind of talent that will go into this industry to hopefully achieve greater social good. And I think that the increasing need to have multidisciplinary skills, multi-sectoral skills, the ability to translate and speak in different languages to reach different people and different audiences will be really important. Just think about the social impact bond. We need to speak fluidly to government people, to private investors, and social entrepreneurs on the ground. And they come with very different languages and motivations. And how do you bring everyone together around the same table to find common ground to deliver social good is much easier said than done. So I think the students in the next generation can really help that bridge. Hopefully we can be sure to say that we're emerging from the great financial crisis of the 2008-2009 era. And as a society, how can we learn from that experience, which has, on the one hand, created tremendous wealth for lots of people for decades leading up to it, as well as created probably one of the greatest disparities in wealth in the history of this country and many other countries. And sitting here now, kind of working in the intersection of the private sector and finance and civil society, I feel it very strongly, and I firmly believe that this is probably one of the most opportune times in our history to rethink how finance can be harnessed for the good of society, and how finance can be used as a positive engine and a positive force for society. It's not to say that what we do is entirely innovative. Innovative finance and innovative finance for social good has existed for a long time. But we need new ways to bring more people to this cause to help redefine it for the next chapter. Another thing that I think is, really seeing a sea change in these unprecedented fiscal times. We're hitting the debt ceiling. Our country experienced a downgrade in our credit rating. These unprecedented fiscal times can also be a time for thinking about new opportunities to address social problems. And I think that this is another way to rethink the social contract. Where does the obligation of the public sector begin and end? Where is the obligation of the private sector? Is it just about maximizing shareholder value in return? Or does the private sector actually have the obligation to give back in different ways? So I also think that that's a timely way. And just hope more people will join this way of thinking. And it's very hard work and a very long journey, but we really feel hopeful that, at least from our little perch at Social Finance, that the ability to create a market, a financial market for social outcomes is within our reach. Tracy Palandjian, I'm the co-founder and CEO of Social Finance, a nonprofit dedicated to mobilizing investment capital for social change.